Welcome back to another episode of the Huge Boob Corner. And today I am really, really excited because I have a good friend of mine on the show. She is extremely beautiful and extremely busty and somebody who I've wanted to have on the show ever since I started doing this. So please welcome to the show, Asstyn Martyn.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very flattered.
Oh, well, no. Hey, you know, it's when I started, as I said, when I started doing this, I was like, you have to be on the show because obviously you qualify.
Which is funny because I am not known for my boobs as much as I am for my butt. So that's the irony here.
Exactly. You are Asstyn Martyn.
Yeah.
Not whatever. It could be with a boob related.
But I'm blessed. I'm fortunate to be able to still qualify.
To have both. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's funny because obviously most of your fan base is probably ass guys.
You know what? I think it's probably around like 60% ass guys, and like, you know, the rest are probably lean towards being boob guys.
Okay.
You know, occasionally you'll get somebody that's interested in
like the belly,
thighs or belly or something else. But yeah, for the most part. Yeah. So I definitely get a mixture of both, just more focused on the butt.
Okay. Well, but that's the thing is, I mean, the fact that they're not your most well-known feature, but they are still pretty incredible.
Well,
I mean, that is a blessing.
I have my German DNA to thank for that. The boobs actually come from one specific woman, my great-great-grandmother, who was from Baden.
Okay.
And a funny thing about her and her Alsatian husband, my great-great-grandfather, is they came to the United States and they ran a speakeasy.
Interesting.
And so I'm fascinated with Prohibition era stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a really interesting time.
Yeah.
Imagine, you know, so, but it's funny because you were telling me a funny story about like how, because when it was, so you started in the industry when, 2017?
June of 2017.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. So, and it's funny because I remember, because we met in 2018. So we met about a year after that, you know, so we've known each other almost 6 years. And, you know, it's funny because when did you start to like get recognized in public?
In public? Oh boy, I'm trying to think. I mean, the first time I was really recognized in public was the first convention I went to, which was Exotica, New Jersey.
Okay.
In, you know, that fall of 2017. But, you know, it was a little bit, but it was, of course, an industry event. So you expect
so of course
that.
people are probably going to know you.
But when I went to Rome for the first time in September of 2019, a guy who worked at my hotel knew who I was.
Okay, there you go.
That was wild. I did not expect that.
Was it something where it was kind of like, what does that feel like to be recognized in a non-industry environment?
And especially in another country.
Yeah.
You know, and last year I was on vacation in Cancun and I got recognized at my resort too.
Really?
So yeah, like when I'm in another country, it really, you know, it's like, wow. Yeah, it's very surprising. And then even on my way here, I was recognized at the Phoenix airport yesterday.
Really? So So what happened again?
Well, I'm like walking, trying to find my gate. And the funny thing is I actually was walking the wrong direction and figured out and had to, you know, backtrack. And this guy just stops dead in his tracks and was like, "You're an inspiration." And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, you know me?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." I think he might have called me a true patriot. And,
wow.
You know, he shook my hand, but I'm like, "Here, just give me a hug." You know?
Yeah, nice. Well, so those kind of public interactions are usually pretty positive then for you?
For me, they've been very, very positive. Yes.
That's good.
I mean, it's kind of weird. Sometimes I'll have things like that happen in my hometown, which is not a big town.
Yeah.
And
so
I'll get an email like, "Hey, I saw you out," you know, like, "Oh, okay." You know,
uh-oh. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. That can be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine. But, you know, hopefully, again, but the fact that they've been mostly positive is good. Like, so, because you started at, how old were you when you started?
It was like a month before I turned 43.
Okay. And see, that's what's interesting because, you know, it seems like more and more people have gotten into the industry at a later point in their lives than say they used to be. And it's like, oh, you know, this whole idea, it's almost like porn is anti-Hollywood, or when Hollywood is like, oh, once you hit 35 or 40, you're done.
Well, I think with the BBW genre, it's a little different.
Oh, really? Okay.
I do, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel like the majority of BBWs out there are a little more mature. I feel like there's a lot more in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah, possibly.
Than less of the, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Now, there's some of them and they're gorgeous, of course.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of MILFy types in the BBW genre.
I was going to say, do you think that actually adds more appeal to BBW content? Is because you have the curvier women, and then you also have the older woman, which a lot of men, they like, because they...
Well, think about it. A lot of people's mothers and, older women in their lives are not exactly thin.
Yeah. They're not, they don't have a gym body or anything.
A lot of
it's
the time.
It's a life body.
Yeah. Yeah. Like once you've had a couple kids and everything, your body changes.
Yeah.
So.
But it's interesting because you were telling me how you think that there's a lot of closeted BBW fans or people that like bigger women. They just can't. They feel like they can't be open about it.
There's a ton. I mean, I have so many guys sliding into my DMs, paying to text me and things like that, who have skinny wives and girlfriends. It's just a very, very common thing. And I had this idea the other day and I thought, wait a minute. I've heard so much about men being pressured by other men or ridiculed because of their taste in women, because, their friends are like, why do you like fat chicks, and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are they doing that? Because it's just creating more competition for the thinner women. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just going to open you up to more partners if you let the guys who like the bigger women go after the bigger women instead of forcing them, to be into the same thing you're into.
Yeah. It's weird. Well, it seems weird because, I mean, it's unfortunate because I've had to defend myself to people that have made fun of me because, some of the women that I'm attracted to have been bigger women. I mean, obviously boobs are my one of my main draws, and bigger women tend to have bigger boobs.
Right.
So it's like, but I mean, the idea, that for some reason liking bigger women is looked at as, why would you want that? As if the idea is you want to try to, it's like, so, but what's the point of dating? Is the point of dating to be happy, to be with somebody you want to be with? Or is the point of dating to show off and like win a competition between your friends?
Right. Like they're making it about social capital.
Yeah. As if like it's who's got the coolest car, who's got the biggest house.
Right. And I'm not going to try to force one of my friends like, oh, why do you like guys with blue eyes? Why don't you like this kind of guy or whatever? We just kind of like do what we want, and we're happy for somebody when they find someone they like, even if it's not our cup of tea.
Yeah, I'm just happy having I usually win the biggest boobs award in terms of the person I'm dating. Usually has the biggest boobs of anybody else.
I can see that with you.
Yeah, that's easy. I'll take that as a crown.
Right.
But it's just fascinating because you were telling me that, I mean, you've had people that like bodybuilders or athletes like that are super attracted to you, and you think to yourself, but you don't think they could ever like be open about it. Yeah,
there's a lot of personal trainers and models and things like that that I've either been out with or are in my DMs.
Yeah,
it's a very common thing. Some of them are open about it, and some of them aren't. But I think a lot of people would be surprised. I think there's a lot of thin people out there paying a personal trainer who would be shocked to find out that guy is jerking off to me, quite frankly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's great. And you'd think that I mean, did that kind of surprise you when you started to notice that?
It did. One thing that is weird for me is I feel like a lot of times the very traditionally attractive and very fit guys actually have been nicer to me than some of the average guys who are more closeted about it. Yes, because they're more worried about the pressure, and they don't necessarily always have as much, high self-esteem.
Okay.
Whereas I think some of these guys, they know they're hot, and hey, I like what I like, So it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I've been treated like shit more by the more average looking dudes than the hot ones, like the super hot ones.
Wow. That's really surprising.
I know. I'm serious. Yeah.
Well, and so did that start to happen as you were doing adult work, or had that happened before?
Yeah. No, it wasn't before. It was definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's got to be that must have thrown you though, because you thought like you must, because people think that, well, what you look like is what you're going to be attracted to, or something comparable.
Yeah.
Whereas, you'd think that a guy who's in the gym all the time is going to be, and I'm sure a lot of them are with really fit, women that are in the gym.
Right.
But I'm curious, why do you think that you're so attractive to them? That you'd think that it's, that what is it about? Like, what do you think is it about bigger women that attracts them?
I have a lot of different theories, and of course it's not going to be the same for everyone. I think some of the guys really like to feel our weight on top of them. So I think some of these really big buff guys, just imagine this super jacked dude is with like a 95-pound, 5'1".
This is easy weight.
Yeah, like a spinner,
Yeah,
right. Maybe it's nice to feel something different, to feel some weight on them. Maybe they have a little bit of a secret submissive side.
Okay.
And they don't mind being smothered by big bare titties in their face. I don't know.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Any other ideas that you might have?
I also wondered if too, sometimes they're kind of jealous of us just kind of eating what we want and not really caring about the food.
That is,
being able to just enjoy food.
Well, that's the sad thing, because when you look at something like meal prep, it's very, obviously it's very regimented, it's very disciplined, which obviously it should be, because the whole point is to look a certain way and not indulging in certain things. So when I've seen pictures of like all this Tupperware filled with bits of chicken and vegetables and rice, and that's it.
Yes.
And you're just like, I'm eating that for the whole week, and you're just like, well, what do I have to look forward to? More chicken and rice. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And whereas if you can be with somebody who's like, well, what am I going to eat today? You know what? I think I'll have a big thing of pasta. I think I'll have a big, a side of mashed potatoes and maybe a big chocolate cake for dessert. And they'll look at you like, oh my God.
Right.
That looks Amazing.
Yes.
So I can definitely see how there's that vicarious, pleasure that they can derive.
Right. And I've been much smaller. I've been yo-yo dieting my whole life.
Yeah.
I think I first remember starting a diet at maybe 11 or something like that.
Wow.
And I was on Weight Watchers as a child.
Jeez.
More
was
than
that
once.
Safe as a child?
Well, as a young teenager, I don't think anybody cared. I really don't think they gave a shit.
Maybe, yeah.
It's just like, oh, well, you're overweight and you need to lose weight, and
yeah.
So what if you're not fully grown?
Yeah.
But for me though, I actually have been about the same height since I was around 11 or 12.
Okay.
And I was curvy. I had a very womanly body even when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Okay.
I basically look a lot like my grandma. But that's where the butt's from. Her boobs aren't as big. But,
okay.
Yeah,
Grandma's butt.
That was a different side of the family with the boobs.
Okay.
But
the best of both grandmas.
Yeah, basically.
The butt side and the boob side.
One Northern German, one Southern German.
There
I don't know what it is, but
was the Northern German the boobs and the Southern? It was the opposite.
No. Think about this though.
Okay.
In Southern Germany with the Oktoberfest, where they're wearing the dirndls,
Yeah.
They got them up and out,
Yeah.
So, So it just cracks me up. But when it comes to dieting and stuff like that, I had to be like hyper vigilant with things when I was doing the dieting and just obsess. And and I dieted throughout my 20s and 30s off and on too as well.
Yeah.
So like I've been less than half the size I am now. Now my boobs did like shrink down for a while and then they got plumped back up.
Okay.
I actually had this. Okay. So I breastfed both my kids, but I didn't do it for very long.
Okay.
But with my daughter, after I breastfed my son, I noticed I lost some weight too, and my boobs, I felt like they were pretty sad. I felt like they were getting like kind of sagging and empty and not as full as I wanted them to be. So I spent money on pills and creams and shit that didn't work.
Okay.
Well, then after I had my daughter and I breastfed, I read somewhere that somebody expressed a little bit of milk every single day after they stopped breastfeeding. And I did that for a year and my boobs didn't shrink down. So every morning and every night I would just express just a little, like keep them, the glands active or whatever. And I think it worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tip.
Yeah.
That's a tip for people that might be interested to keep the breasts after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it can really wreak havoc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so has there been a size where you were like, you thought was you liked the most on you? Or
my personally, I wouldn't mind losing some weight now, but it's not a main focus for me. But not dieting, because I've struggled with an eating disorder.
Yeah,
I don't really want to get into that, having to just live and breathe a diet.
Yeah.
But I do want to start becoming more active, and just,
and just naturally how your body would adjust to that.
Yeah. And just kind of like try to eat more things that are healthy, not just low calorie though.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good way to you can have a balance in life, and it could be a good way to be the size that you feel most comfortable. Well, but I feel like if I could get down like maybe 1 or 2 sizes from what I am right now, like I feel like I actually don't look my best when I'm thinner.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like I actually look better when I'm plump.
Okay. I think some women are definitely like that, where they look better when they're a little fuller. Which, sometimes you'll see models that were bigger, they lose a lot of weight, like, over 100 pounds or 150 pounds, and they might be healthier, and that might be what they wanted to look like or be. But then you think to yourself, man, they don't look as good as to you. They don't look as good, right? Because some people just, some people look better at certain sizes. Yeah. But you never want to say that. That's right. That's not for.
And that's something that's difficult in this business, is there's a lot of guys that want to have a constant running commentary on the state of our bodies and put it all out there on social media.
Yeah.
And like, it drives me crazy. During the pandemic, of course, I gained weight. A lot of people gained weight, but I have polycystic ovarian syndrome as well, which contributes to that, with insulin resistance and everything. And people just, so often the guys are like, you're getting really fat. Your stomach's gotten so big. I can't believe how huge you're getting. These kind of comments to somebody who's struggled with an eating disorder. It's incredibly triggering.
Well, and it's like some of those guys, I think, are trying to be complimentary. Like they think that they're being like, because they like seeing you get bigger?
Sometimes. They've never had to experience. They don't know what it's like to live in a larger body.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they can really grasp that.
Well, and this idea that, it's so easy just to lose weight. Why don't you just lose weight?
Yeah.
As if you just turn on a switch and, all of a sudden I can get thin.
And there's a lot of differences in metabolism. And, from what I understand, women are more likely to survive starvation and things like that. Like, our bodies really hold on to the calories more. So it may not be as easy. Like, I know I had, an ex that when he and I were dieting together, he would lose weight so much faster than I would.
Oh yeah.
And it was infuriating.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's bothersome, because these people, I get that they have a certain idea of what they want the models they like to look like. But at the end of the day, it's not up to them. It's not up to, because if you decided to lose a lot of weight, say for whatever reason, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I lose some fans because they don't want to see me this small.
Right.
But this idea that there's this entitlement that you have to stay a certain body type for my enjoyment and my satisfaction.
Exactly.
It's,
And I actually did have some work done then after I had put the weight on. So I had a tummy tuck and some lipo.
Okay.
But I still, I may get more lipo. I may not worry about it. I knew I wasn't going to be thin or anything, but I felt like my stomach was just starting to kind of take over that's a common thing with PCOS, where you get a lot of belly fat plus aging.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't liking how my shape was changing. And it was getting more difficult to be mobile. Like, I felt like I had to take a lot more breaks when I was walking. I had trouble like bending over to tie my shoes.
Yeah.
Honestly, sex was more difficult in certain positions because my stomach would be in my way, kind of suffocating me.
Okay.
And I had lower back pain and stuff. So, so I did that. And I think it has improved, my mobility, and I like my shape better. I think it makes my boobs and my butt actually look bigger when my middle's smaller. And so, I've only heard like a couple negative things from people about it.
Yeah.
But it's just, I wish that a lot of these guys would stop making these kind of comments on women's posts whenever they have any kind of change in their body. Because I've seen it where they get mad at women for dieting or having like weight loss surgery or different things done to their body. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, also if people gain weight.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need this running commentary. How would guys feel if a woman was constantly giving a rundown on the state of their hairline?
Yeah.
What imagine like, wow, you've lost so much hair since last year. You're going to soon be bald.
Yeah. Right.
How would that make them feel?
Yeah. I can imagine that would not be very pleasant from that perspective. Because
even if that woman liked bald guys, still you're going to have, you might not feel that way. You might be running to go get hair plugs if somebody said that,
I don't want to look like George Costanza.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I want to still,
you have a great hairline.
So. Well, thank you. For now, hopefully it stays with me. But I get what you mean, because men, it seems like the two things that men physically are the most insecure about is their hair and their height. Mm-hmm. Because I think those are the two things that women tend to be, because, I have heard, I'll say this, I have heard the most comments or the most like hardline physical no's based on, oh, he can't be bald and he can't be short.
Mm-hmm. You reminded me of something I wanted to say.
Okay.
So in the industry and outside of that, to an extent, in like the fat admiring community, mm-hmm. they like to categorize us into like BBW and SSBBW. Mm-hmm. I personally don't care for the SSBBW. Now, I have been called that sometimes. Some people would say I am, some people would say I'm not. Mm-hmm. But I wish that we didn't have to have such a classification. I wish we could just all be fat or all be BBWs.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like if you took a 5'7" man or 5'6" man and you took like a 5'3" or 5'4" man, you don't need to call the shorter guy a micro mini man. He's just another short guy.
Is that what they call them?
No, but I'm saying in my mind, SSBBW is
an extra classification.
Exactly. And it's like you really don't need to do that.
A micro mini man.
Like we're all just fat. You know what I
mean? Sorry, I was just imagining that. Sorry. Yeah, because when you see short guys that are that short, you're like, wow.
Yeah, you don't need to like double down on it.
Yeah, you don't need to kind of put some more emphasis on the fact that they are shorter than even a short guy.
Right. Exactly. And our weights can fluctuate, and maybe somebody fits this classification one year and the next year they don't, or what. It's just kind of, to me, it's very arbitrary and silly and stupid.
Well, and I mean, I feel like, do you think SSBBW was created by the adult industry?
I'm not sure. Now, I want to say that no shade to the women who use that to market and make money. And if you consider yourself that and you are fine with the term and you like it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion is I wish that we didn't have to have these
that
like
it could just
little,
be all under the umbrella of BBW.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but it's interesting too, because sometimes when you look at like the nominations for BBWs, that there is a wide range. You have some women in there that are, I almost feel like barely qualify because they're like they're curvy, but they're not,
I think it's difficult now because it's hard because yes, you have some that in the real world would not be considered fat women.
Yeah.
In street clothes, you would not say, oh, look at that big lady over there. But in the industry, and being curvier, they're put into the category with us.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like there's not really like an in-between category for like, say, thick women.
Like a medium size.
Right.
Like you can
mid-size.
have mid-size. There you go. Your coupes.
Right.
You got your sedans and then you got your compacts and then your coupes are in the middle for it. But no, well, and that's the thing. Well, and because like you look at and there are some, I think, performers that are able to kind of cross that line of being, because BBW is still more considered a niche in the adult world. So, but you've had some performers now that have been on like Brazzers on their main stuff or some other sites. So I think that there is, but I agree though that there should be some sort of middle ground, because do you have like a specific, like to you, do you have a specific point where you're like, this is a BBW, this isn't a BBW? Like, do you think it's based on weight? Do you think it's based on body type, like body size? Like, what do you think?
I think it's hard to tell, but I feel like if you're shopping in straight size stores,
Like a Macy's or a
well, like if you're not wearing plus sizes,
okay,
and you're, not really short, then to me that's not really a BBW.
So if you can still buy normal retail.
For the most part, like I feel like most of these women outside of marketing reasons would not consider themselves to be BBW. Now, like I said, no shade to people who are using these to make money and have to do this because there is no midsize. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not their fault. And I don't, no. And I have friends that are like that. So, but just like, I think a lot of BBW and fat admirers would be like, that's not the BBW, Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I know I've talked to you in the past about like your issues with like feederism and gaining and stuff like that in terms of like, because and kind of refresh my memory where you stood on that. Because I know that, have you had people that are like, oh, I want you to gain weight or I want to.
That's something I did struggle with when I had put on the weight over the pandemic, because a lot of these guys were, oh, how much bigger you're going to get and all that, and that really triggered me. Because and my eating disorder was kind of a weird one because it wasn't bulimia and it wasn't anorexia. I just had a purging disorder. Okay. So I wouldn't binge. I would just eat something normal and feel guilty because I'd done Weight Watchers for so long. I assigned a moral value to the food. Okay. And because it was like, oh my goodness, I had too many points today. I need to get rid of some of these things. Yeah. Even if it was just normal. Like I would get a Burger King, like a Whopper Junior combo. No cheese on that. Yeah. That's not really that many calories. Yeah. Diet Coke to drink. Yeah. But I would still throw that up because I shouldn't have had Burger King at all. Yeah. Or like I would eat a snack at night and think, I just had like a big bowl of ice cream or I had some wings and it was after 9 o'clock or something. And I would just be like, I gotta get rid of this. I shouldn't have had this. I'm a bad person. For me, it was like a form of self-harm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's not like of course I didn't really lose weight from it or anything, but like, it's not good for your teeth to have all that stomach acid.
Your esophagus, you can damage it.
Yeah, it's not good for your heart and stuff like that. And so those kind of comments just really triggered me when I would get somebody who'd be like, oh my God, you're fucking enormous now. Are you going to get bigger and all this stuff? I would want to just run to the bathroom. Like it was all I could do to not do that. Yeah. And just like it's so difficult to hear those comments.
Would you try to respond and be like, look, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I don't really like that, I don't really like being told that.
I always shut it down really quickly. You do? Okay. And I told them why.
Okay. Well, so at least
and most of them were respectful about it, but some of them weren't. And that's when they would get blocked.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. And that's something. Well, I mean, that's cool though, that you're able to do that. Cause sometimes if, people will hold it in cause they don't want to potentially, I think, risk upsetting a fan or upsetting somebody. And they think, but for you to be like, hey, you know what? Sorry, that's not my thing. And I really don't appreciate that.
I'm not actively trying to be bigger. Like, just let me be who I am, And hey, there's nothing wrong with the ladies and men actually who engage in that and who earn their living that way. It's their body. I'm all about bodily autonomy in every way. So I'm, they can do what they want with their bodies and I have no problem with that.
Yeah. So it's cool because, we're in AVN week now and you haven't been here in how many years?
It's been since 2020.
So before the pandemic.
Well, yeah, it was right before the pandemic.
Right before. Yeah, that was if only we had known then. What the next few years were going to be like. And I just
barely missed. I was in Milan like a week before the shit went down.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, so I was lucky.
So how do you feel about being back here now, though? Like after a few years, I mean, is it something that you were excited about?
Oh yeah, it's great to be back and see all the industry folks and run into fans and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's nice because where I live, I don't really have any other creators or sex workers around me, so it can feel kind of lonely.
Sure. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, because
I mean, my civilian friends are awesome.
Yeah, but there are times where it's like there are things that you feel like you can't talk about or that they won't really understand because if you tell them about it, they're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, different.
Exactly.
So you can be in an environment where it's like, oh, everybody kind of, knows what's going on. So, so what was, cause you were talking to me also about like, you're worried about say censorship that's going on right now. Is that something that you wanted to get into?
Yeah. So I've noticed lately there are different states that are blocking out, like Pornhub and things like that. And there's different laws that they're trying to enact in various states. I heard one that was even potentially outlawing viewing adult content. Like, it's crazy. And I think there's a lot of folks that aren't really paying attention to this, and it's very concerning. And it's not just one party. I think, and this is something I wanted to talk about, is I think we all need to really pay attention to what the folks who we are voting for plan on doing and what they do after they're elected. And I see, like, and this doesn't just relate to porn, it also relates to like in-person sex work as well. We have the more like the Democratic Party is more like the mommy party that like kind of like, well, we know what's best for you and you're being exploited, so you shouldn't be doing this. And then we have the Republicans, which are more like the daddy party, which is like, this is immoral and this is a sin and you shouldn't be doing this. And like, but I think that we need to just be very careful and pay attention to these things, because people's freedoms are going to be taken away, and it's not just going to impact the creators. It's going to impact the consumers as well. And it's a very slippery slope.
So, and that's something that, because I saw how, for instance, I think, like Visa and MasterCard a couple of years ago said, okay, we're not going to allow payments on these platforms anymore. And so now these platforms are, they've changed in terms of, like, I think that's why OnlyFans was flirting a couple of years ago with removing all adult content. And being like, well, we're not going to allow this anymore because we don't want to lose our affiliation with these big credit card companies. So, and because we're at a point now where, I mean, a lot of people, their livelihoods depend on the income that they make from these platforms. So I can definitely see how that could have a lot of effects.
Unfortunately, there is, the industry isn't without some blame in some of these things too, because of some of the more extreme content out there, some of the things that they're doing, it doesn't make us look good. Some more violent content, some of the more incest type content, they're not helping either.
Stuff that's looked at as reaching a very, very hard fetishes.
Right. And I've seen like on TikTok, I've seen a couple of TikToks, and it's young women talking about dating, and they're saying that they've had such bad experiences that they don't even want to date, because like they hook up with a guy and he gets violent with them on the first date. Because that's what he's into. He's consuming that content thinking, oh, everybody wants to be slapped, choked, and spit on. And a lot of women are like, nope, it's not worth it.
That's great. That's something that I was hearing about in regards to, I think I read articles about it saying that this more extreme, sex-based stuff was happening. And that, for instance, I guess a lot of women were a little too afraid to say, hey, I'm not into this. And they pretended like to be into it, even though they weren't. And then it was creating these traumatic sexual experiences that made them put them off of dating like altogether.
Exactly. And it can be difficult if you're with somebody who's a lot more physically imposing to you. Sometimes you feel like, okay, maybe I should just go along with this and let it be done and just not see them again. So I think that's especially younger women, maybe who aren't as confident to stand up for themselves and things like that. But I would love to see more erotic and romantic type content. I have had guys tell me that they like to see more kissing in videos. And that really surprised me in a very, very good way. Because I was like, yes, in real life, do you really like have sex with people you don't kiss? It's extremely rare in my, at least from a hetero perspective. I can't speak for everybody, but you know what I mean?
I think because I think kissing is one of the most intimate things. I mean, it might sound weird to say compared to say everything else you can do, but kissing is something that I feel like you do because you really like the person, and I feel like you can get a lot from kissing in terms of you can determine how this person is, if they're more passionate, if they're a stronger kiss.
Like, I think it would be fun. And if I ever had my own company, I would want to do something where maybe you get, two talents together who actually do find each other attractive and kind of sit them down and have like a little conversation beforehand where they flirt a little bit and, kind of set the stage and have a little more foreplay getting into it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
Well, like, have you had like really intense makeout sessions with people where like you can feel the passion in just making out? Like
that is huge. Like in my personal life, I'm really into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's the thing is because I feel like some of the best, because again, you get a feeling if you're really into the kissing with the person. I feel like again, that's going to make it seem as if, well, I really want to do more with. I want to, expand on this as opposed to it just being a very technical. Okay, let's just insert and go from there. Which, but it's surprising though, yeah, because it seems like porn has become, for as weird as it sounds, like less romantic in a way, because my last episode I did with Christy Canyon, and she was telling me about the stuff she used to do, the type of movie, because they would make movies, like actual movies. It wasn't just scenes.
I want to do that so badly.
Yeah, like it wasn't. I mean, now it's all about like gonzo individual scenes, and sometimes they'll be acting. And I know there's some websites that focus a little more on erotica and stuff like that, where there is more romance and everything like that, but like the gonzo stuff, say with like Bang Bros and stuff like that, it was just like, with Bang Bus, it was, oh, hey, let's just pick up a woman and we're just gonna have a dude come in and they're gonna have sex and they're total strangers.
Now, I do think that some of that kind of stuff is hot too, and I don't want to act like I don't.
Yeah,
but I think it's nice. I think it's nice to have the type of content that couples can watch together.
Yeah,
too. Because I've been in relationships where that enhanced the sex life.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to do that. I think sometimes that can help people to communicate who may be too shy to say what they want, or people who just feel uncomfortable talking about sex with their partners.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, watching something like that and seeing things being done, it can kind of open up the dialogue, and that's a good thing.
And do you think that maybe it can, because unfortunately it seems like a lot of young men especially take their, as we said earlier, they kind of take their sexual cues from watching porn, thinking that, well, this is what I like watching, so this is what I want to try to do.
Right.
Whereas, so if they're consuming more, harder fetish based stuff, they might transfer that into their real life without realizing that, hey, your partner might not be into this.
Right.
Whereas if you show them stuff that's more romantic, that's more about like being loving towards your partner and making them feel good. And again, like kissing on the neck and kissing on, because again, that might not be super, a super big turn on to watch. But like, for instance, in my experience, I mean, women love being kissed on the neck.
Right, exactly.
Like that's something that really can.
Men do too.
I'm just saying, it depends. Yeah, I'm just saying. But that feeling of the kissing and everything like that just can, like, again, it really gets you going, which really kind of shows you how different, say, porn sex is from real life sex.
And nipple play outside of like a breast fetish type video to both men and women, like that kind of stuff, like more erogenous zones than the obvious stuff. Like, it's nice to see those kinds of things. And like talking again about, you mentioned movies, I would love to write, direct, perform in like a horror porn film, like a full movie with the scenes all mixed in. That's like something I would really like to do. I just think it would be a blast.
Well, and it's weird because I think that porn features are definitely a lot less prevalent now. It seems like the only time you see features are, I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're still out there, but for a long time, the parodies of, parodying like superhero films and other popular films were kind of the big features. But
parodies were huge for a while there.
Yeah, for a long time, like not Spider-Man XXX or not whatever.
Or like the Brady Bunch
thing.
I
remember. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, from like or the Pirates movies from the mid 2000s. Yeah. So, but that's cool. I mean, so that's something that you would want to try to get like more behind the camera, or just because it's an idea you really want to do?
I actually want to do more mainstream acting type stuff. It's like on a bucket list. I would love to just do some mainstream acting at some point too.
Like
I feel like
Hollywood
that could
stuff?
be like working. Yeah.
Really?
It's a pipe dream probably because there aren't a lot of bigger ladies in those kind of, unfortunately, there's not a lot of great roles for plus size women.
Yeah.
Especially plus size middle-aged women. I could play somebody's mom or you know what I would like to do? I would like to be like the nosy neighbor lady, like the Gladys Kravis or Mrs. Achmonic if anybody's old enough to remember those characters.
So I'm curious then. So like what kind of what would be your dream role then? If you've thought about it from an acting perspective.
Dream role. I don't know. That's a tough one. I had an opportunity to do a film, and unfortunately I had to pass on it because I had some complications from the surgery I had, and it would have involved that was going to be filmed in the UK. Eric Roberts was going to be there.
Oh, really?
And I was like, damn it, The Dark Knight is one of my favorite films of all time. Yeah. And unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I was going to. I don't want to give it away because
sure.
But it would have been a challenging role. But I just I would love to do something like that.
Well, and hopefully that'll happen. Don't give up on it.
Yeah.
It's just, again, because I'd like to think that at some point there might be more crossover with adult performers into mainstream. I know there has been over the years, little bits here and there. But
unfortunately for me, I don't live anywhere near these productions. So that's another barrier to me.
Yeah.
But maybe someday.
You never know though, because they've, film and TV production have really become like outsourced on location stuff. Like for instance, didn't they shoot all The Walking Dead like in West Virginia?
I'm not sure.
I think they did.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. And so, very little is actually produced in Hollywood anymore and New York. One, I think is because it's too expensive, but also I just, the stuff that they're doing is I think that they're trying to add more realism, or they're just trying to find places that are cheaper. Like that's why Atlanta became such a big shooting area, because Atlanta offered a lot of tax incentives for film and TV productions.
Makes sense.
Like that's why Tyler Perry's whole company, I think, is based out. Well, I think he's from there, but still. So, that's cool though. I'd say there are examples. So I feel like don't think that it's not possible. But anyway, it's just interesting because I think that society tends to still. It's weird. Like they treat bigger people very poorly, yet because there's been a growing like body positivity movement in the last, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. But like, did you see that story about the woman about like Southwest Airlines being able to add, give you another seat if you were bigger, and being able to have an extra seat for free to travel? That
is nice. I don't have any Southwest near me, unfortunately, but yeah.
But that triggered a big debate about like, should people of that size be entitled to, or be given special treatment like that? Or,
here's another thing I don't know that people think about, is that it's not just that the seats are so small that fat people have a hard time fitting in them. It's that they are designed based upon the average man's body.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And like most of society, it's based upon like a 6 foot tall man. Like every time I go to the ATM, I have to open my door because my arms are too short and I cannot reach.
Okay.
Every single time I fly, I struggle to get my carry-on out of the overhead bin. So this is how I live my life, because it wasn't designed with me in mind. So, a lot of women have wider hips than men. So it's not easy fitting in those seats.
Yeah.
And bigger thighs and things like that.
Well, you have to imagine that probably the parameters are decades and decades old, because I imagine that the seat size hasn't changed probably since like the 50s or the 60s.
Or they've made them smaller to make more money.
That's true too. Yeah. When you have to pay like $50 extra just for a little bit more legroom in premium economy, and you're like, this is what Coach used to be.
Yeah.
Like Coach used to just be premium economy. Now it's like, let's sandwich you in as close as possible. And, so your knees are banging against the seat in front of you.
Well, look at those videos or pictures from like the 60s and 70s when it looked so posh when everyone was flying. Like they had so much room and it was so luxurious and everyone's dressed up and they're feeding you these full meals and everything.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, air travel. I mean, we could do a whole thing on how I think air travel's really definitely has gone downhill in a lot of ways. I mean, comfort and quality service and customer satisfaction seem to be a lot more at the forefront at one point, and then now it's just how can we make the traveling as uncomfortable and as expensive as possible?
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure you remember what it was like. For instance, you never had to pay for bags, like checked or carry on. You didn't have to pay for a pillow. You didn't have to pay for food. Like all that stuff was included in the ticket.
Or even water and some of the budget airlines and things. Yeah.
And it's gotten so ridiculous that it's like traveling is, I mean, now internationally, you go on an international airline, completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Their quality is still up there.
And, they're giving you liquor and everything,
Yeah. But even then, though, it's like, traveling on an international airline, even going economy or premium economy, like I feel like you're treated so much better. There, the flight crews are nicer.
You get a blankie.
Exactly. You get a lot. And that's the thing. Like, when you travel internationally, it's like you almost forgot that this is what traveling used to be like domestically.
Yeah, very true.
And unfortunately, you have certain airlines, super budgeted airlines now that like everything is, you pay for the seat, which is maybe $50, but then your carry-on is $60.
Right.
And you're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. And then, like I said, if you get thirsty on the flight, you got to pay for your drink. And
I feel like they'd charge you to go to the bathroom if they could get away with it.
Right.
But, know, so it's wild to think. But anyway, so I let how about we get into the boobs?
Okay,
Would you like to?
Sure.
Would you like to? So even though so you've been mostly like has your butt always kind of been the main thing that people stand out to you?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't the time and place where I grew up. It was bad to have a big butt.
Okay.
So, it was not something I wanted to emphasize when I was younger, like as a teenager. It was something I was one to wear black pants or, wear a long shirt and cover it up. And actually during a lot of the 90s, especially the early 90s, I wore almost exclusively men's clothing.
Wow. Really?
It was the style back then to wear baggy clothes. There was a lot of like hip hop style. I don't know if I'm sure some listeners, if they're old enough, are going to remember. There's a rap video. I think the song was called Gangsta Bitch by, I think it was Apache or something. Okay. And a lot of the women in the video, instead of wearing what they wear in hip hop videos now, which is like skimpy.
Yeah.
The women are all wearing like Carhartts and like baggy jeans and like It was the flannels. That's how we dressed back then.
Okay.
So a lot of women were shopping in the men's department and we were wearing all this baggy stuff. And I was like covering up my shape.
Okay. So so did you always have big boobs though?
I did. When I was in 6th grade, I had bigger boobs than my mom.
Wow. Okay.
Now my mom was she's got bigger boobs now because she put on weight, but she was smaller then, and I think she had a bra size that she called nearly B, like she had to get an in between size because the A wasn't quite big enough and the B was too big.
A+.
Yeah, and I was like C when I was 11.
Okay.
And then like D once I got into like 7th grade or something like that, and then like when I got older and I went on birth control pill, they got bigger and I put on weight and they've gotten bigger. And they got bigger like with the pregnancy and, all that too. So, yeah.
But, so have you liked having huge boobs?
I've always liked having big boobs.
Okay.
And one of the things I like about them is that every night when I go to sleep, I actually hold on to my own boobs. Like I hold on to them like they're pillows.
Do you?
Yeah.
Does that help you?
Like I just it's just very comfortable. It's a place where I put my hands. It's very comforting to me.
They are very comfortable, especially natural ones because of how soft they are.
Right. Exactly. It's just like my own little cushions, my pillows that I carry around with me.
So, because would you say that the men that you've dated have been more boob guys, butt guys both?
It's been a mixture. It really has been a mix.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to not always have it be the same thing, just one thing that they're after.
Sure.
So,
yeah. You know, one guy is just always playing with the butt. Another guy is just always playing with the boobs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Or there's the my favorites are the guys who can appreciate both.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. The top and the bottoms.
Yeah.
So, well, but that's the thing is because again, since your fan base is mainly, you know, butt focused or majority butt focused, like, is it, you know, what is it that, like, what is the best thing I think that you like about your boobs?
I like, I'm trying to figure out how to say things I like about mine without putting somebody else down. So I have to be very, very diplomatic about the things that I say.
Okay.
I do like how they hang, and I, you know, I'll tell you one thing I am self-conscious about though, is how light my nipples are and how light my areola are.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of self-conscious about that.
You would want them to be a little darker, to have a little bit more contrast.
See them better. Yeah. Cause they're really super light.
Yeah. I can get that. Yeah. Cause sometimes it looks like if the areola are too light, it almost looks like that you can't see them.
Right.
And it's just a nipple.
Yep.
So is there a way, I'm curious, I wonder if there's a darkening well, I mean, I've seen
now when I was pregnant, they were a little bit darker.
Yeah, they do get darker.
Like a normal thing that happens.
Yeah. I think the nipples get enlarged and everything because it's got to do with something. I don't know if it has anything to do with the milk or that creates that darker,
some kind of hormonal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, so, but like, I don't know. Do you enjoy, you know, like playing, you know, because you said you like holding them. I mean, do you enjoy playing with them?
I like being groped and things like that.
Okay. Well, consensually.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Don't take that as like a come up to me.
But my nipples are very, very sensitive. And I do have to get guys to back off of them sometimes because they're too rough.
Okay. Like with like pinching or biting
or even sucking too hard.
Oh, okay.
I'm more into having them like gently licked.
Oh.
And I came so close once to orgasming just from that.
Ooh.
And I didn't even know I was capable of it. And that's something I think I need to explore.
Definitely. Imagine if that's all you needed.
It was a situation where I knew, the guy, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but the guy I knew he wasn't going to have sex with me and I didn't have to do anything to him. He was clothed. Mm-hmm. And it was basically just like a body worshiping thing. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have any pressure. I knew I wasn't going to have to do anything to him. And so I could just lay back and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I was like, wow. I said, I was really getting close and I was like, I didn't realize I was capable of this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I need to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how the body has so many different, erogenous zones.
Right.
And I think that, you don't really get to explore them very much, but obviously, I mean, boobs gotta be though.
And the weird thing is, even though I can suck my own and lick on my own,
it
wouldn't work the same. It's mentally not.
Yeah, true.
Because I can't focus on like giving and receiving at the same time that well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not the same vibe.
Yeah.
For that, but yeah.
So are they currently at like do you have a favorite size they've been?
I mean, the bigger the better. Honestly, if I could I have thought about getting the fat transfer to them.
Okay.
But I've had a couple surgeons poo-poo the idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why? Just
they had some negative things about it.
Mm-hmm.
That it could potentially be more difficult trying to detect breast cancer. Like you can get more false positive stuff going on.
Oh, okay.
And I've just had different surgeons that act like they don't like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is something that I thought about. Like if I could have bigger boobs, I would take even bigger boobs than what I have now.
You would.
Mm-hmm. Not radically. I don't necessarily need radically bigger, but just a little bit fuller and a little bit,
mm-hmm.
Adding just a little bit to them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people that would much enjoy that.
Thanks. So I'm like, if I were to buy a bra that I want to fit me perfectly, where there's nothing popping out and it's just for function and not for style, like my size would be like 38 double H.
Okay.
I usually wear a smaller cup size more to have them popping out and stuff to look.
Yeah.
But that's like if I went to a bra fitting, that's the size they would tell me I was.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that's great. And you've never really had like back problems or anything with them.
No. And I think it's because I have a wide frame.
Mhm.
Like I think I can carry them,
Yeah.
So I haven't really like any back problems I've had, I don't believe were ever caused by that.
Yeah.
I did have one doctor suggest I get a reduction though, just from looking at me.
Really?
And again, I think this was actually kind of like a fat phobia thing. I mean, he was actually a nice doctor, but he was just like, have you ever thought about getting breast reduction? And I said, only if I can get a hip reduction too.
Well, I'm curious because like, do you think that having the huge boobs gives, overall, like, the figure a better look all around?
I have had guys call me pear-shaped.
Mhm.
And I really took umbrage with that because I thought I have spent way too much money on bras in my life to be called pear-shaped.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand that right now pear-shaped women are very in vogue, like body trends, come and go.
Mhm.
And right now there's a lot of women who have more like a normal upper size body and an enlarged lower body that you see on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah. Massive hips and thighs
but exactly. And then maybe just like a very average top.
Mhm.
And I don't fit into that category, not just because, I have big boobs. And like I said, I've spent a lot of money on bras, but also like, I don't want to steal their thunder. If now's their time to shine, I'm not going to step into that category when it's not my category. I consider myself to be more of an hourglass shape. Maybe I'm wrong. I just got some extra time on the hourglass.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like an hour and a half,
Nice. Well, and I mean, I feel like huge boobs are always liked. I mean, maybe that's me because I've always liked them, but I think you go back to see like old movie posters, for instance, from the 70s. You look at the original Star Wars poster and they have Princess Leia with cleavage and her boobs look pretty big compared to what you don't even see anything until the very, very end.
Yeah.
But
I just had a flashback to looking at my dad's old Playboys in the 70s.
Oh, really?
From the 70s, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting how different boobs look. Seems like they look back then to now.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons that I was happy when I got bigger boobs.
Yeah.
Because I had admired them. I, stumbled upon the Playboys and stuff when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to look like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I don't think Playboy really highlight a lot of super, super busty women. I think that they kept a very kind of, because to me, it seems like they had a very specific body type that they wanted.
Right.
And very rarely would they feature, because there are super busty models from the 70s and the 80s that were in other magazines, like not as, popular.
I remember, I'm telling way too much about myself here.
No.
One of the Playboys I found when I was a kid was like an anniversary edition or something. Mm-hmm. And it had some older, like it showed you like centerfolds throughout the years. And it had some from the 60s that were bustier, but it was almost like maybe it was during that like Russ Meyer time or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always thought that they looked the best. Like, and I was like, oh, I wish I had boobs that big. Like I really thought they looked great.
Well, and they did. And you look like, Russ Meyer was onto something because obviously his movies were very, very popular to a lot of people. And I think that and at the time they were all natural, like, because enhanced boobs were not nearly as well known and popular back then. So, but yeah, you had, I think there was like Chesty Morgan. I think she was a very like a burlesque or
I
dancer.
remember that. I recognize the name.
Yeah. From back then. And
yeah. So I am an admirer of boobs as well.
So you like big boobs then on other women?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Like merely for aesthetic, or you actually like it kind of gets your,
I do when I shoot with other women. I definitely like playing with boobs, and I like being motorboated and everything. Like I like being smothered with huge tits. I'm not going to lie about it. It's fun. They're just fun to play with.
They are. They're probably the most fun body part, I think, on any person. So well, and like, do you like to motorboat do you like to put your face? Or
my face? Yeah.
So you're not as much with people putting their face.
I mean, they can do that too, and that's cool. But to
really
me, it's more fun. Like, maybe it's kind of fun when I see somebody who's got bigger boobs than mine. Like, oh wow, let me play with those things.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, the first time I was around one woman who was a super busty model. I won't mention her name here. I had to get, and I've done this with a couple different really super busty models. I had to get a picture with my head, like one of their boobs on each side.
Oh yeah, right.
I had to do that.
Yeah, I wish you could do that at AVN, but unfortunately, they're very strict on, I think, policies where, like, I think you can't even wear pasties anymore or at the AVN. So it's like, I don't know if you could probably do one with the boobs on the head, like on the top,
right?
But being cradled by them, the boob cradle.
Exactly. The earmuffs.
So, well, no, I mean, but that's the boobs are a very huge boobs are a very wonderful thing. So, and it's like, cause I mean, do you consider yourself more bi, or do you think to yourself like, or is it just, you can appreciate huge boobs regardless?
This is it's so complicated.
Okay. Well, we don't have a lot of time anymore.
I know.
But
I will say I consider myself to be bisexual, but it's not like an equal thing. I don't really date women in my personal life. Like I've in the past, but I'm mostly date men, but I definitely enjoy the company of women. Okay.
And huge boobs.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think huge boobs have a power that transcends sexuality.
I believe so as well.
I think that it has this effect that people, can't even describe. That's why they're so magical. So anyway, though, Aston, I really, again, I'm really happy that you were able to come on the show.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
I had a wonderful time, and I definitely want to have you back.
Awesome. Yeah.
So let's do this again.
Back. Yeah. Sure.
All right. And to all of you out there in huge boob land, we will see you next time. Bye.